What is up, free thinkers? Henry here, just saying thanks for joining us this Friday for Wisecrack Live. We'll be with you in just a moment. James Buchanan, I see the comment, and yes, for those who adhere to a non-free will belief of the universe, what up, sentient, self-aware persons as well? Matt, David, I can't answer why we are here, but thank you for committing to being present in this moment.
Oh, no, am I have to do it over again? Am I gonna have to muster that enthusiasm? Okay, cool. Sorry, guys. I'll start
Sorry about
over.
that, y'all. I just had to reconfigure some audio.
Uh, we're here. We're here. What's up, fellow free thinkers and members of the free thought community? It's Friday, February 17th. Friday. Normally, Wisecrack Live is a Thursday endeavor. We're here on Friday this week. Thank you so much for showing up. I know that someone said I'm too loud for you. I'm sorry. I'll speak quieter if I'm too loud. But excited to be back. We were off on our normal day yesterday because I took a little bit of vacation time, which is, fun. I saw someone in the chat talking about the greatness of producer Henry, and now oh yeah, James said Henry really is the coolest, and I just want to affirm that and say that that's true. Yeah, everyone, I did enjoy my vacation, except for two things. I had a little bit of a what's the word I'm going to look for? I had a little bit of a rough go my last night of vacation. I got a little overwhelmed, had a little bit of an emotional break. Not like a full emotional break, but these things happen. And then I also stupidly, not stupidly, but I also on vacation tweeted at noted free thinker James Lindsay from the Wisecrack account, and then had to deal with having. I just didn't realize that when you tweet something to someone like James Lindsay, that A, they just like retweet a bunch of things, and then B, their little mafia just comes at you hard. So that was fun. I'm actually going to send Henry some more screenshots from that I forgot about. But so that was a thing that I shouldn't have done. You shouldn't get on Twitter when you're on vacation. You shouldn't engage with someone who says that you have a PhD in jerking off. And as I told him, only a master's degree in jerking off. But yeah, so that was another part of my vacation that was really fun. But besides that, it was great. It was nice to get out a little bit. Someone said, Caspi said, "Where'd you vacation?" Up in Northern California. Beatmaster said, "You need a vacation from the vacation." I feel like that's a really, I feel douchey and entitled saying that, but I totally do feel like that. I don't know, Henry, have you ever had this where you'd like go on vacation or you're out of town for the purpose of relaxing, but then you get back and you feel like you need to relax a little bit more just to get ready to enter the world again?
Yeah, the readjustment phase. I know that feeling.
Yeah. So, but we have a long weekend. We're doing this today, get some other days off. So yeah. And what's up to Morty McFry in NorCal? We're excited everyone's here. Hopefully everyone checked out the video today. We've had a recent string of videos that I would say have been, if not, literally co-written, co-ideated or ideated with all of you, because they're things that we talked about collectively on here and kind of got to test some ideas out about. And one of those is art and morality, in particular, the curious case of Justin Roiland. So that video came out today. You've had an hour and 8 minutes to watch it, so maybe you have. What else came out when I was gone? A couple things. The video on Harry Potter, and the reaction to that was very normal because everyone's reaction to J.K. Rowling and things she said is normal. The New York Times handles that in a very normal way, and the way everyone talks about issues around trans human beings is just normal. And the video was basically just like, hey, all this is normal. So there you go. What, Henry, you might know this. That was a little of it. What other video came out in the last week?
Aside from the Harry Potter one, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm also queuing up images right now.
I know. You know what? Don't worry, guys. I'm gonna look. I didn't do my normal thing. I'm gonna do my normal thing, and we're gonna get into it. Again, this is Wisecrack Live. We do this once a week. It's Michael Burns and producer Henry. We're going to talk about some topics, dive into some videos, hang out with the chat, do wisecracky things in a live, uncut, unscripted format. Anything could happen. Oh, we did the video on Mr. Beast and Dystopia. So again, that's another video that we kind of workshopped in here together. I saw that Hassan Piker did a watch of the Mr. Beast video, which I decided not to watch. I don't like to watch when people react to our videos. I'll react to people's videos, but I won't watch people reacting to our videos, because you got to have boundaries in life, guys. You got to have boundaries. So we get that comment. And then coming down the line, we also have a video on AI where I'm excited about this, friends. And here's the deal. We let AI write a few Wisecrack videos, and then I just did them. And then Adam H, by the way, brought up the brown spot. And I see what you're talking about. I totally do. When you first said that last stream, Adam H brought up the brown spot in the studio, and I thought he was nuts, but he's totally right. So I'm gonna look into it. Maybe I'll put a sticker over it or something. Cass B said, like the stream. And I have to agree with liking the stream. It helps us when you like the stream. That's how people watch it. Dota Padope said, react to his reaction. I thought about how it'd be kind of funny to react to a reaction of one of our videos, but then can we really do that post Bo Burnham's inside? You know, did he kind of like put the kibosh on doing that and going meta? I don't know. I don't know if one can be performatively meta in that way. But yes, we also do like 666. Well, we like 666 likes, and we like 666 live viewers. Not that we like Satan. It's just funny. It's just a funny thing. But what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about a few things. Everyone's is what I just said. Oh, Hassan went down the Harris hole too. Wow. Stay out of my hole, Hassan. I haven't even checked if there's new Harris. I hope there's not, but I haven't checked. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, what's up, Nelson? Glad you're here. We're going to talk about the He Gets Us commercials. I don't know if anyone watched the Super Bowl. I did, mostly for the snacks and the commercials. And I'll be honest, I've become one of those people that's more interested in the commercials and what they say about our society. Moises says all my homies hate Satan. And I think that Super Bowl commercials are always a great sort of litmus test of where we're at with like a cultural and the overlap of cultural and economic ideology. You know, it's interesting that last year in the Super Bowl, it was all crypto commercials. And this year, no crypto commercials. No crypto commercials, friends. I don't know why. Someone said, do you have a Jesus voice? I think I would. What would be the Jesus number? Oh, 777, right? Isn't yeah. So if we get 666, I do my Satan voice. And I'll say it, my Satan voice is contentious. Some people do enjoy my Satan voice, but a couple people have expressed discomfort. So I would say, if you are uncomfortable with the Satan voice, help us get to 777, and I'll do the Christ voice. Speaking of my voice, we'll get into this later. You know, we can debate this. Noted freethinker James Lindsay says his voice is like 500 times sexier than mine. And I didn't know that he ever tweeted this, because what I did earlier today is I Googled James Lindsay plus Wisecrack to see if there's any other shit he said about us. And I found some old tweets where he saw a video I put out about how he's bad at reading. And it called me a honker and said honk, and then said that his voice is sexier than mine. Very interesting. It's interesting when a public intellectual, their main arguments are like, my voice is sexier than yours. Or if you say something they don't like, they say that you're a groomer. So that's fun. That's fun. But we'll talk about that later. So we're going to talk about the Jesus commercials, talk about what that means and the way the commercials are a little window into cultural ideology, and maybe get into who is behind the Jesus commercials. You know, maybe next Super Bowl, this community will fund Satan commercials. I'm kidding. If anyone, I don't want to offend anyone. We're not really doing Satanism. It would just be kind of funny if we had a Wisecrack Live commercial in the Super Bowl that just said Satan. Yeah, who honks, right? What are honkers? I don't know. So we'll talk about that. We'll watch those commercials. We got to watch, and this is a special producer Henry request, but I support it fully. We'll watch the Flash trailer, and we'll just see what's going on. I've not rewatched it since the Super Bowl itself. Part of me was like, you know what? This doesn't look so bad. Also, let us know in the chat. Don't tell us anything about it. Let us know if anyone's seen Ant-Man and the Wasp yet. I'm going to see it tomorrow. It looks terrible. It looks like it's going to be a bad movie. Everything I've heard about it makes me think it's going to be a bad motion picture. So you all might know this about me. I have a soft spot for the MCU. I want it to be good. I enjoy having something to look forward to in this often meaningless
Yeah.
world, and
I
it bums
even
me
like
out.
Jonathan Majors.
I love Jonathan Majors. I thought his Kang slash He Who Remains from Loki was amazing, but I just, why does every movie have to look like a early 2000s computer game or something? So, I'll go see it. From White Bread to Satan Voice, how spicy will Michael get today? Says Stuff of Nicholas. It might get spicy. Cassidy says James Lindsay is one of those guys you can tell he's short just by how he talks. Same with Tom Woods. That's funny. It's like we don't want to make fun of people for their height unless they're terrible, and then we can. But so we'll talk about that in hour two. We'll talk a little about James Lindsay. What I do want to talk about, he has a book out that came out recently that I'm not going to read, or if I read it, I'll download it illegally and scan it and just go ugh, ugh, the whole time. But it's called The Marxification of Education. Because here's the thing, friends, a lot of people on the right wing side of things are very obsessed with the idea. I mean, we talked about this with the Ron DeSantis stuff and Florida stuff last week. The new pet project of the far right is dismantling education, both at the public and private level, both at the elementary, high school, and university level. And one of the ways they want to dismantle education is the implication that there is a Marxist undercurrent to the American education system, which is absurd. I say this as someone that used to teach at universities and was someone who taught at two places I taught. I was the guy that taught the Marx classes. And I would teach like Marx to like business students who were just like, this is funny. Like they didn't see me as a threat. They were studying business and they were going to go make money. It was like a joke. You know what people think about the kooky Marxist professors at universities? That they're just like the weird old kooks and you take their class because they say funny stuff. They're not radicalizing a generation of communist super soldiers who are going to come out of the university and dismantle capitalism. Not at all. Most people, the most popular major is like business. The second most popular major in most universities is communication studies. After that, you got engineering, computer science, all those sorts of things. Economics, philosophy, sociology, cultural and critical theory. No one is majoring in these things. Just today it got announced. I think I might get this wrong. I think it's Marymount University in Virginia. It just announced they're gonna get rid of their philosophy and ethics programs. So it's not a real threat. Okay, sorry. Yeah, people. Penny said, "I wish education was Marxified," but uh, it's stressful, and it's stressful because in this current culture war, more and more people are like poking at philosophy and critical theory and all this stuff as bad guys, and it's stupid and it's so dumb, and we'll talk about it later. But let's talk about the Super Bowl. And Marty D majored in economics. That's smart. Let's see. The Great Stone Dragon said, it's already quite shit. You can basically topple the education system with the political equivalent of a hard slap. I mean, people want to know what the education system is like. I taught in a philosophy department where the university, because we were so radical, they made us in one of our classes teach students how to write resumes for jobs as part of the philosophy curriculum, because they said the most important thing was job prep in the open market. Like no one is doing this radical stuff that these people think they're doing. Nelson only has 3 minutes until they get live. Nelson, we believe in you. Nate Lynch dropped out in grade 10. You got to do what you got to do, Nate, but that's probably why, you avoided the wokeification of whatever. Extraneous love their capitals education. Only costs $250K to make $20K a year. Tell me about it. Great Stone Dragon is professor. Awesome. Great Stone Dragon, I'm an ex-professor. I got kicked out. Also, it's funny too, when James Lindsay got mad at me on Twitter, people were calling me like an ivory tower person who thinks that only philosophy professors matter. And I was like, dog, I left the academy to work on YouTube videos that anyone can watch because I think it's fundamentally important that ideas are accessible for everyone. But what are you going to do? Let's talk about Jesus. What if God was one of us? Antoine said, people get a philosophy degree for a job. They don't. Troy Walker's a professor at FU. I see what you did there. And hello, Eric Erickson. And yes, please do remember to like the stream your likes of the stream are directly correlated to how much food Henry and I get to eat today. So there you go. I'll answer a few quick questions because there's some good stuff, and then we're going to get into the He Gets Us commercial. Husk says, what's your take on Philosophy Tube, the channel? I think it's pretty good. If I'm honest, I have not watched all of her videos. When I have watched them, I've liked them very much. Sometimes I just don't watch the whole thing because they're really long. I think it's good that they're really long, and I think they're really well made, and I love the performativity and the theatricality of it. In a couple cases, I do think I come at things from a different angle from Abigail, but that's totally fine. But I think it's a cool channel. Cameron Miller says, philosophy has a problem explaining itself to people who don't study philosophy. You're absolutely correct. And I think that's the challenge. And I think, gun in my head, what does philosophy do? Philosophy is like thinking about the conditions of thinking, and thinking critically about the meaning of our lives and the lives around us, or something like that. I could do better than that. And RJ Walker says, and this is really important, and this kind of helps us get into what we're talking about. RJ Walker says, Jesus has IBS and ate late night Taco Bell. He gets us. Here's one thing I'll say. It does stress me out that people orient their entire lives around religious figures who never got to eat not only Taco Bell, but tacos in general. How can we really trust someone who never has had the joy of a warm tortilla in their hand filled with al pastor, carne asada, with some, onions and cilantro and other things? Like, I don't know. I just don't know if I can trust my entire soul and salvation to someone who's never known that joy. But that's just me. Let's see. And Husk, I agree with you on that. Mark Guzman studied sociology. Sociology is fun. Okay, so let's just start by watching the commercial, the Love Your Enemies story. I'm going to click and I'm going to pause it. We'll get it loaded. So this is a commercial that aired during the Super Bowl. And it is a commercial that if you try to figure out, oh, Gustavo says Jesus was in Mexico. He created tacos. Well, there you go. That's fair. Someone said, would there ever be a debate between the two channels, you and Philosophy Tube? Oh, I feel like Philosophy Tube is too good for us. I don't know. I would love to chat with Abigail about anything. Although I'll say this too. I don't really like debates. Not a debater. A lot of people that work at Wisecrack have a background in debate, and they're very smart. But I've never been a debate person because I kind of like to sit around and like think and carefully form arguments. I think that's why I like writing better than debating. So I would probably do a bad job at a debate, but I would love to talk to Abigail from Philosophy Tube about any number of ideas. And I would even like to talk to her about areas we differ. And the reason maybe I don't like the word debate is I think debate implies a winner and a loser. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like a dialogue would be interesting because I would love to chat with someone who has a slightly different perspective on something than I do, and maybe be pushed and pulled in different directions, but not for the purpose of one of us being the smart one. I don't like that, but maybe it's just because I'm not a big like sports guy or something like that. I don't know. Cannibal 616 says, thoughts on the Black Jesus show from Aaron Magruder. I didn't watch all of it, but I really liked it. I very much like the Black Jesus show. Okay. Hearty discussion goes. So this is the Jesus commercial. It's called Love Your Enemies. And I think that we'll talk about all of this, but one of the most interesting things when watching this commercial is the question of what do the images mean? What are these images implying? And what are we meant to feel or think when we see them? The other interesting thing about these commercials is you can follow the money to the people making these commercials. And they've done a good job of creating a couple layers of disconnection between the people who produce the commercials and the people funding them. But what might shock you is, this really might shock everyone, is the people funding the commercials maybe a little bit on the far right bordering on fascist side of things. Maybe hypothetically, the people that funded these commercials have been called an anti-LGBTQ a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Maybe the people that funded these commercials helped draft the Mississippi abortion law that's been used to try to overturn Roe versus Wade. Maybe that's the thing. Stuff of Nicholas says, imagine just logging onto the stream and seeing the screenshot and Michael saying, so this is the Jesus commercial. Cass B Star, first off, implication that racism is over. Black cop, black protester. Yes, I think that's very interesting. It was telling because like this, there was a choice, right? Every image we see is a choice. So we see a black cop and a black protester.
Millions were spent on this.
Millions were spent on this, like literally millions and millions and millions. And someone said who funded it. We're gonna get more into this. This sort of the final. We'll get into this. The company who made them is called Haven. They're based out of Michigan. Now, Haven is a part of a group called Signatory. Signatory funneled the money for these commercials through an organization called the Alliance Defending Freedom. So that's the money trail there. So let's start watching it. So we have our police thing. Okay, and now here we have a white lady yelling at people on what looks like public transit. To me, that looks like a train, probably, maybe a bus. And I don't know what this is. Is this like an angry Karen thing? Is it? I don't know. So we have the angry white lady. Oh, and then we have this. Oh, I love this one. Look at the expression on the face of the man who looks like he's maybe the line cook. So we have a white man in a camouflage shirt, and the white man in the camouflage shirt is trying to jump over the counter from this restaurant. They have breakfast, they have the menu, they have the drinks and sweets, and then you have the one employee who's like, "Oh no," and you have the cook who I imagine is like, "I oughta smack you," and then you have the white guy. But again, we make some choices here. The white guy is both looking like he's maybe lunging at a black woman, but then there's a black guy holding him back. And in the very back corner, there's a lady who's just sipping her drink. Like, get a look at this. Get a look at this. Okay. So there, again, I'm seeing anger. I'm seeing that we live in a world of aggression. We live in a world of division. Okay. And then here, this one seems pretty easy to me. So we're outside a restaurant and a bar. We have a cowboy man, and we clearly have a young woman who's meant to signify like liberal student protester. To her left, we see through the blinds, and someone's like pulling down the blind to look as they sip their coffee. We see a young man who looks like he has dreadlocks and a megaphone. So we know that he has that. Someone said, "Tag yourself on the drink lady." I like that a lot. So again, what I'm getting as far as we live in a polarized society. We live in a society where people are yelling at each other a lot. And then here maybe these people are friends. So we have a white guy and a black woman. They're on their stoops. She's watering her plants. He's opening up. This one, let me know what you all think. This just seems like they're hanging out. Yeah, it looks like this looks like a musical. Like every day, these two, even though they're different, every day they get home and it's 6 p.m. They break into a show tune.
Yeah,
that's what they don't look mad at each other. Yeah, Moises said window pals. So they look pretty cool right here. Also, this is Wisecrack Live. Thanks for being here. Please remember to like the stream. Even if you don't like the stream, just like the stream. Come on, be a follower. We're watching the "He Loves Us, Love Your Enemies" commercial from the Super Bowl. Maybe I'm fool. Oh, this one looks intense. Note that the man on the left has 2 tire irons in his left hand. Like he has tire irons. Again, Paul said guitar strap. It did look like the white guy had a guitar strap. Maybe he's playing music. This one, I feel like there's a lot going on here. We have a man with two weapons in his left hand. Now, I mean, things used as weapons. And then the woman to the left of him has a can of spray paint. So we have a spray paint lady, and we have tire iron guy yelling at an older man. This one, I'll say this, got some racial dynamics here that are curious. It's curious. This is the second time in 15 seconds they've shown 2 black men yelling at each other. I'm not saying that means anything. I don't know if it does, but yeah. So let's keep going. So we're 15 seconds and they haven't said anything. There's not been text on screen, not a voiceover. So if you didn't tell me this was a commercial for Jesus 15 seconds in, I'm not thinking it's a commercial for Jesus.
Foolish, blind, thinking.
I don't want to say this is funny, but it's funny because it's not real. But it's two girls. Is she throwing a punch?
So
it looks like a weak. Is that, or is she like pieing her face, or is she punching her in the mouth?
I think they're at a school and she's throwing some sort of beverage at her face.
Yeah, her stance is maybe a little weird. I mean, she has a wide stance, so if she was throwing a punch, and then we have students on the staircase who are filming.
Yeah, when this image first popped up, I thought the one on the left was wearing like a barista because of her outfit, and I was just subconsciously there's a lot going on with like anger directed towards like service workers in this as well.
Yeah, so here we go, just some white on white violence. Finally get some white on white violence in this commercial. So the girl's fighting in high school, and someone's down on the steps, and they're filming because TikTok.
And I can see through this and see what's.
Okay, here we go. So we have young man of color, pretty angry. Guy behind him was filming, and then there's the white guy, and it looks like his jacket there's like a star. It seems like he's meant to be in a motorcycle gang. Then we have a woman to the right with her mask on. So, I mean, the interesting thing is here, both men have jean jackets, but they seem to not like each other. Again, the guy on the left, he has a bandana, he has a necklace, he looks kind of cool. The guy on the white, I said the guy on the white. Just in case I did say that. The guy on the right, who is white, has a lot of signifiers of like a son of anarchy. It seems like his patch says something villain. His beard. Oh, and it looks like his hand's doing that, like he's pointing. And James Buchanan says, I respect the beard game. Blake says, what if they're simply having a rap battle? That would be the best if like all of a sudden they're just battle rapping. Okay, let's see. Liam said, I knew it was a Jesus commercial right away. Not lying. Okay, dark denim versus light denim. This is disappointing. Nick said, this is disappointing. Didn't really expect this type of smug edgelord take from Wisecrack. Not even fantasy. What is smug and edgelordy about this? I mean, I don't think it's smuggy because I think this commercial is kind of ridiculous. And I feel like edgelordy, I've always thought of edgelordy as when someone has sort of radical or dark or negative beliefs about things that are just performative. But I don't know. But I'd be curious, Nick, who said that. I mean this genuinely, Nick. I truly mean this, Nick. I don't want to disappoint you. And I don't want this to be smug or edgelordy. So, let me know in the chat where I'm letting you down. And again, I mean that genuinely. Okay.
Behind, got no way to prove it.
Now, okay, so I think this is the first time we're getting explicitly political, because everything thus far, one could intuit the political tension being exemplified based on signifiers like style of dress and racial dynamics. And here we're getting some more particular. So let's see. Blake says critiquing religious advertisements not the same as edgelording, but that's just in your opinion, and I respect that. Let's see. Someone said I'm humble and straight edge. Then someone said something pretty nuts that I'm not gonna go to. Yeah, I don't know. But again, I'm just trying. Oh, Honeyman said, "What's up, boys? Daddy is here." Henry, did you know that we had a dad and his name is Homie Man 1917? I'm glad that our dad is here. Thank you, Homie Man, for being our daddy. Help me not be an edgelord, Dad. Okay. So this is clear. Liberty over lockdown. This might have even been a real picture. Stuff like this happened during the pandemic where people in certain cities were mad about masking and stuff like that. So there you go.
So maybe
And this one's just kind of artsy, I feel like, because you have a bunch of people with megaphones, and then there's the one girl in the middle, or young woman in the middle, who's like plugging her ears or whatever. Blake says, I'm Christian, but still very uncomfortable with these camp plays. Yeah. So Blake, and hopefully everyone gets this. I'm not interested in this because I think that religion or Christianity in particular is something to be made fun of. If you've watched some of the videos we've made on things like this, I've talked about it before, because this isn't, I don't think that this commercial, we can talk more about this, is an earnest expression of religious belief. I think it's a weird marketing tactic trying to create a weird ideological bait and switch. That's what I do kind of think. So, and I think maybe as someone who is, Brady Finnegan Reynolds, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. First time. Hopefully it's first time, long time. But I think in describing like why this might feel bad or weird for someone who like is a Christian and has that sort of religious belief, it's probably this isn't reflective of how you interpret your faith. I don't want to project onto you there. But yeah, Matt Larson finally made it to a live stream. Glad you're here. Okay. Yeah, Matthew says they're treating Jesus like a magic solution. I mean, I also do think as well, we'll talk about this a little more, but I think that this commercial can be read in a lot of different ways. And I think it's genius in that you could watch this as a woke liberal. You could watch it as an angry right-wing person. And I think you could project your beliefs onto this in a way where you are the good one or something like that. Penny Walter said, not a critique of religion, critique of religious advertising. I mean, there's a famous Marx quote where he says something like the critique of religion is the premise of all critique. And the point Marx makes there isn't that we got to critique religion and be edgelords about it, but that understanding the societal function of religious ideology helps us get at the core of what a society's values are. So like if we look at, let's say, Protestantism in Europe, post-industrial revolution, you see a heavy emphasis on things like, it being good to work and labor, and the poor are blessed and those who are meek are blessed. This is, what Nietzsche would get mad at. And when you critique those ideas, it's not critiquing a biblical tradition or even theology as such. It's asking, what is the benefit of these ideas? And it's that question of, well, who benefits? Like, who benefits if a religious ideology at a period of wild industrialization encourages people to spend as much time laboring as possible and turns the labor and suffering into spiritual virtue? Who benefits? Well, not the people laboring, the people that are benefiting from that labor. So I think when we look at something like this, it's always that, oh, Malagel's here. What's up? So glad you made it. I think, here it's like, what is the idea being explored or communicated? And what is it saying about our society now? And it's trying to make some comment. Ooh, what's up, Syntax Era NZ? Glad that you're here. Let's keep watching. Okay, now I'm noticing a theme. The rule of threes, right? If we see a thing happening in comedy and literature, or whatever, when we see it 3 times, we got to ask ourselves something. And what we've seen 3 times thus far, and we're 26 seconds in, is 3 different times where they just show us black men yelling at each other. And it's the one consistent pattern we've seen thus far. That makes me feel weird. Maybe that's a problem on me, but that makes me feel weird. So there you go. Green Boys Rise Up. Thanks for being here. Matthew has a degree in religion from a Christian university. And we have a peacemaking center on campus because peace takes work. Yeah, Matthew, that's amazing. I went to a undergraduate institution that was Christian as well, and they had an emphasis on that sort of stuff. So for sure. Okay, we're almost at the halfway point.
Look in the mirror, what do you see?
Now, before we get into this, does anyone know anything about the song that's playing? The I'm Only Humans? I know that's a popular song. I don't know a lot about it though. So now we're on, this is a plane, right? Because yeah, we have seats 11, F, and G. So we're on a plane and there's 2 men fighting on a plane. I also want to note that in multiple scenes now, we've had a black man holding a white man back. I like that the lady in the very front of the image here just seems like she's chilling. Like she's watching some in-flight programming. and couldn't be bothered. But then, of course, the people to the left are like, this is about to interfere with my situation. So we're fighting on planes. Let's see. Just to catch up with chat. Oh, Daddy's still here. That's great. We have a degree in cock and ball torture. That's pretty intense, but hey, you get it. Let's see. What does a good religion look like? Just catching up on this. I'm just joining this, and this seems far, far away from Wisecrack program. What is this? Letter W. We're analyzing a commercial that aired during the Super Bowl called He Gets Us. Derek Gaunt grew up in the church and saw a lot of this heavy-handed. Oh, Rag and Bone Man. I forgot that Rag and Bone Man was a thing. What a name for your art, Rag and Bone Man. Anthony, you're here. We're glad that you're here. Yoga Misam says, why aren't there images of boardrooms with angry white men? Okay. Thule says, can we go once through without any breaks? Listen, it's always fair to say that because I take a lot of breaks. I mean, is this getting insufferable, Henry? Should I just watch it on the way? Or is this, I don't know, some people seem to be liking the image by image breakdown. I don't know. As always, in the chat, feel free to say what you want. But I feel like what normally happens whenever I ask what you want, it just goes half and half, and it doesn't help me. So let's do a little bit more. Okay, let's keep rolling. I'll try to make the breakthrough. White on white crime. That guy looks like Steve Bannon. So it's a Steve Bannon type yelling with someone who looks like she was on the show Blossom. This looks like, it does look kind of like Scottie Pippen. It's not Scottie Pippen. It looks like a young Scottie Pippen. So now we have an athlete being yelled at by reporters. Okay, great. We're voting. That guy has a flag. He's old. He's bald. And he doesn't stand for your bullshit. His flag is obfuscated so we can't see what they're voting on, but we know they're voting for or against 14. Okay, she has a mask on, but the woman in the middle is over it. She's like, I can't deal with it. And then the one with the mask is like, listen, the particles go into your mouth and that is how diseases spread. And she's like, I've had enough. But there you go. We'll keep going. Okay. So this is another moment where we have something explicit. I think there's an I can't breathe sign in the background, which is a clear reference to actually existing protest movements, a sign that says no justice, no peace. I think here we have a fight at a sports game. There's jerseys. Tag yourself. I'm the guy in the backwards white hat who's leaping forward in a way where he seems like this is fun and he just wants to get involved. I don't know if anyone, I don't have a laser pointer where I can show you this, but there's the guy who's in the middle of the frame, backwards white hat. And it looks like he's leaping. He also looks like one of the guys, if anyone's seen I Think You Should Leave, he looks like one of the members of the Turbo team from this angle. And he looks like it's Turbo time and he's trying to jump in a non-violent but friendly way. So that's what I'm seeing there. Adam H. can't pour his shots fast enough. It's not the New York Times. Again, welcome to Wisecrack Live. If you're just tuning in, Black as Coal said, I'm the popcorn. Homie man, Dad, if we're allowed to smoke a bowl with you, maybe. And then Derek B says the woman in the coat sneering in the back right. I like her too. We're watching the He Gets Us commercial from the Super Bowl. And Blue 2X2X, I'm always the bald guy on the right, you know? That's kind of my place in life, is being the bald guy on the right. Okay, this is pretty clear. I'm pretty sure that guy is sort of a riff on the Q shaman because he has the same Nordic headgear that the Q shaman has. The guy he's yelling at has such an interesting look on his face. I think we're riffing off like a capital attack thing here, but that's definitely a reference to the shaman. Gustavo Marquez says, does religion have a societal function anymore in the same way that you mentioned that Mark said? It seems like there is an increasing division between culture and religion. Well, Gustavo, I think that you definitely see it in terms of the way in which religion and a specific reading of Judeo-Christianity in America has engendered a turn against things like, for example, women's reproductive rights, gay marriage, trans rights, a lot of things that have to do with like sexuality and gender, things that, as someone who did take New Testament and Old Testament in college, aren't really that important in the Bible. I think that religion, in particular, right-wing American evangelicalism, has been used to perpetuate that agenda over and above a lot of other things that come up in the religious and theological traditions. So that would be my response to that. John Johnson said, "I'm God. You're all my children. You're all God." Thanks, John. Listen, we appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Bobby Pine says, "Look at all these divisions caused by ideology. Rid yourself of ideology. Follow Jesus." And someone brought up the Pepsi Kendall Jenner commercial, which I think is true. So you might also be wondering, why do some people have green usernames? Does that mean they're the resident stoners who want everyone to know they're about that green? No, it means they are members of our YouTube page. It's a fun thing you do. You get green usernames, you get emotes, you get to be on our Discord. Also, we have a Patreon. People have talked about the Discord in the chat today. So if you saw that and you thought to yourself, Wisecrack has a Discord, why wasn't I invited? I don't want to be alienated from that. You can join. It's fun. You join our Patreon, you get a Discord, you get extra videos. As we talked about last week, we're going to start making some extra content on our Patreon. Stuff we're thinking of is more philosophically focused, breaking down ideas. It seemed like there's some people who liked that. So if there are people that like the idea still, what's up, Dude Abides? Super glad you're here. If we like the idea of creating some more content on Patreon that does a deeper dive into philosophical ideas, let us know. Okay, so Stoner Gang, glad you're here. Non-Stoner Gang, glad you're here. Just glad everyone's here. This is maybe my favorite still image of the commercial thus far, I will say. Blake Davidson, thanks for hanging out. And Blake's a teacher. I don't know if you know this, Blake. Teachers are our favorite. Let's freaking go. Have a good teacher-parents conference. And if you don't know this, teachers are the best. And if you hate teachers, we hate you. Those are the only group we hate. Homie Man says, my dad, so if Homie Man's our dad, his dad is our grandpa, is a right-wing fundamentalist pastor. When I was in 6th grade, I woke up to a woman from our church screaming her head off she was possessed. That's real. I mean, that's real. There's some wild stuff going on there. Oh, now we just do a bunch of fights. Okay, is this white guy trying to throw a punch? Because that is not how you don't go from the side. It's not how you punch. Okay, so now it's just full on chaos. And then we pause. The chaos builds. It's a cacophony. I just stuttered a little bit there. Shouts to our president, who's also a bald man who stutters. Although our president, listen, we don't do politics here. Here's my critique of Joe Biden. Everyone get ready. This is going to be the most political I ever got. Joe Biden is an invalid president because he has hair plugs. I don't like bald men that get hair plugs. I think it's sellout stuff. If you have hair plugs and you're in the chat right now, I want you to leave. So I'll give you 2 seconds. If anyone has hair plugs, please leave. Jesus loved the people we hate. Okay, let's get into it. This is what I think is potentially interesting. I'm curious what everyone thinks about this. Here is my reading of this. My reading is that if you are a left-wing, Black Lives Matter adjacent protester, that rather than being angry at the people that stand against you or angry at people that walk across a college campus in Virginia holding torches and saying Jews will not replace us, you shouldn't be angry at them. You got to love them because that's what Jesus did. Michael Dodge with the keeps joke in the chat. I see you. I respect you. And it's fair. Also, like the chat. Let's get to 666. Let's do it. Henry, go ahead.
Yeah, so what you bring up interests me because this commercial is trying to acknowledge like hate or division or anger. But what it's showing you is what the creator finds as like the recognizable or citable like places that anger manifests in American life. You don't see, like the comments say, you don't see boardrooms, you don't see workplaces where the boss is doing something to the service workers. Mm-hmm. It's a customer worker like antagonism, and it strikes me as all like imagery. Conservative Christians who like kind of came late to the politics game and started going to protest around 2016 onwards, like barely got into contact with this imagery, and now it's kind of going full circle into the advertising sphere because of it.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. Casey Masterpiece said, I'm just like, why at this point? You spent more energy being this hateful, but I guess if you're rich, it's only a few tweets or button clicks, so easier to spread. Yeah. Thornback says, Yeshua also turned tables upside down and screamed in the temple. Edward said, okay, spread love, not hate. That's what I got from using Jesus, of what the idol stands for. Love. My reading is Jesus is better than you.
Yeah, a lot of comments saying they didn't even like notice they didn't even put up like domestic violence. It's like, yeah,
Oh,
you
Henry,
didn't see
you were
any kind
there.
of child abuse or anything.
Yeah. But I do think that there's there's a, how do I phrase this? I think there's something that's flattening about this idea that one says, okay, yeah. So Yoko Misum says the real people Jesus taught us to question are those in power, which is pretty true. So like in the biblical tradition, there is this emphasis on, justice and the oppressed and the immigrant and the widow. And there is this sort of trend towards the privileging, or at least the acknowledging, of those in positions of powerlessness. And there are critiques of those in positions of power. And I think that, this is something we see in the prosperity gospel, a trend in American evangelicalism. If you don't know what the prosperity gospel is, this is people who think that by exhibiting faith in Jesus, you will be rewarded with material goods like wealth and cool shit. And if your faith is lacking, you will not get those things. And the pastors who preach this stuff have private jets. Someone said Jesus got angry too. Yeah, he did turn over tables, the tables of the money changers and things like that. Love your enemies. So that was the commercial that aired during the Super Bowl. Now, the commercial as it is, as it exists, just like that, I guess it's fine to an extent. I've seen more harmful commercials. The theme is Jesus loves everybody. I think there's a lot of readings of the tradition of Christianity that might go a little different than that. So let's check out. I have that article open that you sent, Henry, the truth behind the He Gets Us ads for Jesus airing during the Super Bowl. Do you want to check it out?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
All right, cool. And there's a lot of those commercials. Penny said, my response to the commercial is, you first. I think that's very fair. Anthony Napoli said, Jesus fought for the underdog. He fought for people that had a little agency and power in a society. This has all been lost in the past 400 years. And, we're going to talk about this a little bit, and I'll tease the second hour. In the second hour, we're going to talk about my friend and the sexiest man alive, James Lindsay, whose recent book, The Marxification of Education, uses as a starting point Paulo Freire, a Brazilian pedagogical thinker who riffs off of, yes, Marxism, but also the tradition of liberation theology, a largely Latin American developed school of theology that prioritizes the liberation of the poor and is a sort of progressive and egalitarian take on Christianity. So there's also ideological reasons that people are not into the reading of Christianity as something that is egalitarian and stuff like that. Awesome. On Fam, would be happy to see a Buddha Gets Us commercial. That'd be fun. Also, here's what I want to say. If we're going to have, Cass says, I hope this talk about James Lindsay turns into a Wisecrack video. So we have a Wisecrack video from a year and a half ago that's on James Lindsay, but we didn't put him in the thumbnail. I might do one. He just gets I would say that I was a little, I don't want to say spooked. We'll talk about this more in hour 2. I was a little bit annoyed and thrown off by how many people jumped in the mentions to say really foul shit at me, which I'm fine with. But what I didn't like, and I don't know if any of you are in the chat right now, Paolo was the GOAT. There were some really cool people from from this community, the Wisecrack community, who did jump into the mentions when the Lindsay gang came hard on Twitter to say like cool shit. But then some of you all just got attacked by weird dudes with American flags and like goat heads in their usernames and profiles and stuff. So I just don't want I don't want anyone to catch a stray in the crossfire. That's important for me. Casey says marketing feels false when a large company in power tries to act like a small, humble underdog when it clearly isn't. Yeah, and that's the thing too. The commercial is there's millions and millions of dollars behind it. You don't spend millions of dollars if there's not a purpose for it. Okay, so here's a CNN article. In between star-studded advertisements and a whole lot of football, we got taken to church. He gets us a campaign to promote Jesus and Christianity. Also, the idea that Christianity needs to be promoted is pretty crazy. It's the first or second most popular religion on the planet. It's the dominant religious ideology in Europe and most of the Western world and lots of the, African and South American continent. Like, it's not an underdog story. People are pretty aware of Christianity at this point. Let's see. It's running 2 ads as part of a staggering $100 million investment. To many, the spots will be nothing new because they've been doing this for a while. The campaign is arresting, portraying a pivotal figure of Christianity as an immigrant, a refugee, a radical, an activist for women's rights, and a bulwark against racial injustice and political corruption. They feature content about of-the-moment topics like artificial intelligence and social justice. I want the Christ reading on social justice. Thank you for liking the stream. It means a lot. Let's get to 666 because why not? Hey, Luz, thanks that you're here. Thanks for commenting on the last video. Unless your comment says something like, Michael, I hate you. Matthew said the wild thing is that Lindsay got into a huge fight with a bunch of Christian nationalists. That's interesting. Let's make atheism commercials. Yeah, I want a commercial where it's like Larry David and he's like, religion, God, who has the time? Or something like that. Just a really passive type of atheism or agnosticism. Let's see. I'm confused. Is Monica Lopez and Pinzon Art said, I'm confused. Is Christianity the same as Roman Catholic? Well, Monica, I grew up Roman Catholic. We're getting a palate cleanser. We're definitely getting a palate cleanser in between topics, so don't worry. Roman Catholicism is a very old institution that practices a certain form of Christianity with a certain theology. The type of American evangelicalism being practiced and sort of perpetuating commercials like this. A lot of evangelicals think like Catholics aren't real. So, there you go. We can talk about it more though. No Larry David. Yes. Discord mod. Okay. So I'm going to skip down under the picture of Patrick Mahomes, but certain details about the He Gets Us ads have set off alarm bells among young people and those skeptical of religion. 2 groups the campaign is trying to attract. Some of the campaign's major donors and its holding company have ties to conservative political aims and far-right ideologies. Uh-oh. The chain of influence behind He Gets Us can be followed through public records and information on the campaign's own site. The campaign is a subsidiary of the Servant Foundation, also known as the Signatory. According to the research compiled by Jacobin, a left-leaning news outlet, the Servant Foundation has donated tens of millions to the Alliance Defending Freedom, a conservative Christian legal group. The ADF has been involved in several legislative pushes to curtail LGBTQ rights and quash non-discrimination legislation in the Supreme Court. If Jesus loves everyone, and if He gets us, then why are we paying millions of dollars to take rights away from some people? Because wouldn't He get them too? Homie man, we love our daddy. But so that's, I don't know. I don't know if I like that. And Fam says, are we skeptical of the believers of actual religion? I'll quote religion as a way to respond to that. There's a thing, right, in the Bible where it's like you judge. And I always quote the Bible wrong, so I'm so sorry for those of you who know this stuff well. But something like you judge a tree by its fruits. This is just me talking right now. I just feel like the way I would judge, or not even judge, evaluate a religious person is by how they live. If it's like someone could have really good values and just be a dick and treat people poorly. And maybe someone has a set of religious beliefs that I don't agree with, but they treat people really well. This kind of reminds me of when we talked about wokeness and empathy a couple streams ago. And I've been thinking about that a lot since. If anyone missed that stream, Chris Maverick's here. We were talking about, what some people call is like woke or progressive or whatever, but how a lot of it boils down to a baseline of empathy. And I think I said that the only politic I'll say that we really, I guess the politic I'm comfortable saying we at Wisecrack embody collectively is a sense of like empathy towards all the people. And I think that, there's something to that and something you get in religion that's not being played up here. So this article goes on to say, while donors who support He Gets Us can choose to remain anonymous, Hobby Lobby co-founder David Green claims to be a big contributor to the campaign's multi-million-dollar coffers. Hobby Lobby has famously been at the center of several legal controversies, including the support of anti-LGBTQ legislation and a successful years-long legal fight that eventually led to the Supreme Court allowing companies to deny medical coverage for contraception on the basis of religious beliefs. Whoa! Syntax Era, NZ, Lord of the Chat, gifting memberships to people. This is a fun thing. This is, someone said the righteous gemstones. I will just say yes, 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 yes. We have a Lord of the Chat right now. If you've never been here before, Lord of the Chats are people who donate memberships to other people. It's a fun thing to do. Money is a weird thing. Sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. And if you have it, it's a fun thing to do sometimes. Someone said, Michael, define person. I don't know. I don't want to define a person. I don't know. And I feel like if I try, even if I'm like a little glib with it, I'll just say something wrong. So you know what? I'm pleading the fifth. Going down, it says, this guy, Green, discussed his involvement in the campaign with conservative talk show host Glenn Beck. We are wanting to say, we being a lot of different people, that He gets us. Jesus understands us. He loves who we hate. I love that idea. He loves who we hate. So he's basically saying like, I hate people, but hey, Jesus loves them. Like, oh, you're gay. I hate you, but Jesus loves you. Go ahead, Henry.
Just so knowing like who's funding and for what ideas they are funding this for, just the tag like love your enemy that it comes with, like, are they saying love them? Like, are they pretty much like, I don't know, it's kind of that dog whistle bet where it's like, I am the enemy. Are you going to love me? Like, this ad campaign just strikes at a very perverse cross section of spirituality and profit.
For sure. And Fam says religion isn't just an answer to the afterlife. For sure. This is like Nietzsche's point, right? That religion and Soren Kierkegaard and a lot of people who have thought about religion in interesting ways will make the point that, religion is about how we live this life. And I think that's why even in the Bible, it's not like Jesus is just like do stuff and then die. It's about the living of life. The gosh darn Batman says, I'm a practicing Christian with a master's in historical theology. I thought He Gets Us was cheesy but harmless until I heard about the Alliance Defending Freedom connection. For sure. I agree with you there. Nelson gifted 10 Wisecrack memberships. The Lord of the Chat fight is heating up. Nelson, thank you so much. That's fun. This chat is about to get green, everyone.
Another thing that kind of like cheapens the whole overall like intent is when you check out the rest of the campaign, they do have videos where they're like, you can go to our site to find ways you can text people and like get like outreach out there, like running like a volunteer social media campaign for Jesus on behalf of this company. Like,
oh, for sure. Also, I think the Green New Deal is happening in this chat right now. I'm seeing so much green. Guys, AOC is somewhere smiling at you. We won't get into it. AOC talked some shit about the He Gets Us thing and people got mad. Wait, I just want to go down. Let's see. Jason Vanderground. Oh, we got more donations. This is a good time. Holingan says, can you guys stop gifting me and just send me $20? Jason Vanderground, spokesperson for He Gets Us and president of the creative marketing firm Haven, told CNN that they use a fund which unites donors to provide pooled support for organizations while ensuring the organizations can operate without donors impacting specific messages. Going down. It's tied into evangelical churches. Let's see. Okay, I'm scrolling down. We're talking about Billy Graham, not the best guy. I'm going out of the part that says some critics say the campaign is not authentic. The minds behind He Gets Us say the campaign's message is intended to appeal to younger people and those who may see Christianity as toxic and divisive. A lot of times when people look at Christianity, unfortunately, they see it as much more hypocritical, judgmental, discriminatory. We're trying to unify American people around the confounding love and forgiveness. I think it's basically just like, there's a reading of all this where it's just saying, hey guys, hey young people, Forgive the fascist. Forgive the racist. I don't know. I'll forgive you on the other side. Dr. Kevin M. Young, a pastor and biblical scholar. Jesus, Natasha, this is crazy. We're getting so much. What I'm seeing is the spirit of giving here. This is the spirit of justice. This is the spirit of the free gift of faith, or something like that. So thank you. That's so nice. Andy F is getting here late, bringing up the fear mongering thing of it. For sure, it does paint a world that's scary and mean, and everyone's going to get you. Let's see. Yeah, it goes down and says, some he gets us messaging makes oblique references to cancel culture, which raises a red flag for some who see the term as highly politicized and a staple of conservative rhetoric. One message uses the slogan, Jesus was canceled. Yeah, anytime someone starts bringing up canceled, I'm like, okay, what are we doing? And then someone says, this is the quote from Josiah R. Daniels. Furthermore, imagining Jesus as apolitical is itself a political decision. And it's a decision that aligns with politically and financially powerful interest. I think that's interesting. I think it is true that like the apoliticization. Oh, Matthew, thank you so much. The decision to be apolitical is a political decision. That might sound a little bit cliche, but I think it's true. Jesus was canceled. Is that what we call Easter now? Cancellation Sunday? I guess it would be Thursday of the Easter week. That would be cancellation Thursday. Okay. Other Christians have criticized the campaign for different reasons, for being too vague and de-emphasizing biblical teachings. Conservative pundit Charlie Kirk took aim at the campaign, saying that they've been taken for a ride by these woke tricksters. Guys, I know that sometimes people watch the stream that have a variety of beliefs, and I like that. Also, like the stream. Thanks for being here. We got to get over all this like woke trickster, whatever language, guys. It just means nothing. Everyone's too smart for this. Everyone is too smart for this. Yeah, they want to be scripturally accurate. I'm going down again. So it says Christian identity has waned in the U.S. in recent decades. About 63% of American adults identified as Christian in 2022, down from 90% in the 90s. So 63% isn't enough. we can't just have 63%. I mean, and listen, if you use words like woke mob and stuff like that, at least just ask yourself, like, what are you really saying? What do you really mean when you say those words? And I need to do this. We all need to do this sometimes. Someone said earlier that it's hard to. Eric's here. What's up, Eric? Someone said earlier that it's hard to like define philosophy. Philosophy is sometimes just saying like, what do the words that I mean? What do the words that I say actually mean? Let's see. Okay, so there we go. That's he gets us. We are officially ending the he gets us part of today's stream. Unless, anyone has anything else they want to say about it. But thanks. This has been an interesting discussion. Please stick around. We got a lot more to come today, guys. It's going to get spicy too. I'm going to say this. We're going to get a little spicy in a bit. We're going to check out a trailer now. So Homie Man says, Woke Mob is the name of my rap clique. Someone said Harris whole time. I don't think there's a new one. Chris Maverick is a woke trickster. He would be. Everyone's a genius. Einstein from Nelson. Let's go. We like Einstein. Okay, but thanks for being here. But stick around. We're just getting cooking, guys. Let's watch this Flash trailer for a second because it's kind of nuts and there's a lot going on here. And I'll just say this: this relates to today's video. So today's video is about shitty people who make types of art and how we process that and what we do to make sense of it. Oh fuck, there's a new Harris. What is the new Harris? Someone say it in the chat because I'm not going to look it up right now. But Adam Famtam, thanks for checking in for a bit. It means a lot for us to just check on. Oh, Jesus played for the Bears. Clay Baker asked. Jesus played for the Chicago Bears in the mid 80s. That's when he played for the Bears. Everyone knows this. If you don't know this now, you know. Let's just say this. Ezra Miller, who's in The Flash. The reason people have had some weird vibes over this one, not a good person. Not a good person. They've done some bad, weird, violent things, and it feels a little weird. So Harris has a video about Russian YouTubers and censorship. That actually sounds interesting. Okay, let's just watch this. And I'm not going to stop that much.
Tell me something.
Ryan, thank you for reminding us about the Greeks.
Another timeline.
Michael Keaton's voice.
Another universe. So why do you want to stay and fight to save this one? Because this is the world where my mom lives.
What if everything was the multiverse? Every video, every movie has to be multiversal.
Time has a pattern that
Birdman
it can't
4.
help reliving. Different people, different worlds, drawn to each other like magnets. It's my face. You stole my face.
If you were to go into the past, you have no idea
I'm going to pause to say I went a whole minute without pausing. New record.
what the consequences can be.
Bruce, I could fix things.
You could also destroy everything.
This can't be happening. I completely broke the universe.
Zod, we've been waiting for you.
Zod's back. I don't know, but what are they doing with this? Because isn't the whole point they're just going to bring a bunch of stuff up that's now going to be dead because James Gunn is doing something totally different with it?
I created a world with no metahumans. And now there's no one to defend us.
Want some help?
Is anyone else old enough to where their first experience of Batman was Michael Keaton or their main theatrical one? Because I'll say that when I was growing up, Michael Keaton was the first Batman for me. And if you've never gone back, someone said, what are metahumans? That's just them trying to be fancy about superheroes. It's an annoying thing in DC. Like, they're just superheroes. But they got to be, no, they're metahumans. No, they're superheroes. But, okay, Gunn did say it's important. So thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, if you've never watched the Michael Keaton Batman movies, they're very weird and fun.
You are?
Yeah. I'm Batman.
It kind of though seems like they're using Michael Keaton Batman, but the vibe is Christian Bale Batman.
If I can't undo what I did, if I can't get back, there might not be a future.
And yes, Prince is one of the old Batman movies, which rips. So someone in the chat, and Henry might know this, we can talk about the end of it. I have no idea who the Superman character is in this one, so I'm very curious.
What's the play? Batman, what do we do?
We try not to die.
We try not to die.
It's not Clark.
My name is Kara.
I'm Barry. We're Barry.
Kara.
Barry, what are you doing? Our kids are gonna want to see this.
Our kids? You're gonna have kids with another version of you? Gross, dude. Okay, so who is Kara? Do you know, Henry?
It's Supergirl.
Supergirl. Oh, okay. Sorry, that's dumb of me.
I mean, I found this trailer just like kind of overwhelming in general with all the stuff it's trying to cram in. So no worries not knowing.
Okay, what is it? I'm curious what other people think. I think I am slightly more optimistic than Henry, only because it just seems kind of interesting and looks kind of cool, and I'm getting so burned out on MCU stuff.
Yeah, I agree on being burnt out on MCU stuff. This to me just seems exhausting because of all the Snyderverse imagery, but I feel like,
Mhm,
especially
mhm.
with like Gunn saying it's important, they're just basically going to do some multiverse stuff to kind of pick and choose like stuff fans still love from that continuity and carry it
Yeah.
forth into the new one.
Yeah, Logan Reese is asking the really important question, which is, if you met yourself, would you F them? I don't know. I don't know if I'd be very into me. And maybe that's something I need to work out with my therapist. Someone asked if we could talk about superhero movies breaking cinema. Probably not too much right now, but we have a video about that. The thumbnail is something like, it's about like Martin Scorsese and the MCU. So it's something we have talked about. We can talk about it again. I don't think we're going to go too deep right now. Black as Coal says, I feel fatigue. Same.
Yeah.
Luz stopped at Endgame. That's very smart, Luz. I think you did the right thing because you
Endgame-
haven't missed much.
Yeah, Endgame was where investment kind of checked out. For me, I think what exhausted me is that it is Keaton Batman. Like, it's a weird full circle thing for me because like Keaton's Batman was so trying to like prove itself as like a singular and like cinematic, like not not a Silver Age comic book like camp thing. It wanted to be a movie, and this is like the Ouroboros has gone full circle, and it's now just like ingested into the yearly publishing schedule of cinematic heroes.
Yeah. No, I agree. Joan Jobs in the chat said, our kids could just mean kids they have one day with their partners. No, I know. I learned something as well on my vacation. My partner and I stayed with two friends, and one of my friends, I realized this, kind of pointed out that I just say insane things a lot, and sometimes it's hard to tell when I'm being sarcastic or real. And sometimes when I'm around very earnest people, not that I'm not earnest, I can accidentally just say crazy things in a really flat affect, and then people think I'm being real. So I'm sure that happens here sometimes as well. So if I ever say something and you think that was really dumb and maybe crazy, then there you go. Someone said, I've renounced my atheism if God would make humanity stop making these cheese dick movies, says Ryan Miller. I love that cheese dick movies is a phrase. I find that really funny. Urinator says, when is Schedule 35 ad coming? I need that discount. Pretty soon. Speaking of Schedule 35, I'll tell you one thing I did on my vacation. If you know, you know. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about James Lindsay. So, personal story time. And here we go. Most streams, there's a time of the stream where I get a little problematic, where I say things where I think to myself, is this smart? Should I say this? Do I want this on the internet? Am I going to get fired? Oh, Mellow Jello says the code still works. So check that out. And you can always make a cart and you don't have to go all the way through and just enter the Wisecrack code and see if it works. And this is an instance of that. So flashback a few days ago. It's over the weekend. I'm hanging out and I'm on the Wisecrack Twitter account, just checking in. I was checking in to actually do a tweet about the stream to say it was going to be on Friday this week. And somehow I saw a reply to a reply that showed James Lindsay posted a meme that was making fun is one reading, bullying is another, recklessly politicizing a young girl who took her life last week. And I don't want to get too into that side of things. I'm very sure aware of the story. And in that moment, I see this person with a big platform who's Mr. like, I'm good, smart, righteous, right-wing guy, and you are bullying, a trans child who took their own life because of bullying. And I think I just responded to that tweet and said something like, bullying a dead child, you're a real piece of shit and a total idiot. Now, do I think he's a total idiot? Yes. Do I think he's a piece of shit? Yes. I'm very comfortable saying that. And then I just didn't think that then he would respond and people would retweet stuff. And then I doubled down a little bit and kept responding when I maybe shouldn't have, guys, but I did. Now, I have a couple screenshots. If we want to pull the ones up, the first ones I sent you, Henry, the one where he tweeted, I'm winning. And then, so we made a video a year and a half ago about critical race theory. And in particular, it was looking at James Lindsay, who's one of the intellectual architects of the criticism against critical race theory. And in this, he did this long podcast series where he talked about Hegel and why the philosophy of George William Friedrich Hegel and his dialectic is at the root of critical theory, and the critical theory is at the root of critical race theory, and yada yada yada. And he said nothing. He said nothing, and he doesn't understand Hegel, the philosophy of Hegel. He doesn't understand its relationship to German critical theory. He doesn't understand the relationship of critical theory to critical race theory, and he doesn't understand the relation of critical race theory to contemporary education. But he's written some really dumb books about it. And, you know, there's people who have been even associated with his channel who have said slightly positive things about him, which I think is really stupid. And I think his thinking is dangerous because he, attacks the thought of, he uses philosophy he doesn't understand to attack people like academics and educators. And often the intellectual schools he's trashing are schools that feature a lot of women and people of color as well. So there's that whole factor. Now, James Lindsay is someone who just has no formal training in philosophy or critical theory. He does have a PhD in mathematics. I don't understand math. I don't want to argue with him about math. Math is really hard. Guys, math is really hard. The gosh darn Batman says the Hegelian dialectic is a mode of worship, is a sentence burned into my brain against my will. Yes. Can't even believe it. So that's why I think this guy's thinking is dangerous, but a lot of people on the internet are attracted to it. And it does piss me off. It makes me angry. So we have some screenshots and I didn't see this till today. When we posted our first video, his response to it, and I will tell you, our Philosopher Reacts video, you could watch it. I do a pretty solid job of pointing out in very simple language that he mischaracterizes the thought of Hegel. He just does. And I get at it in a good amount of detail. I would be happy to go into more detail about this. But he doesn't understand a philosopher he's talking about. And here's me being a little bit empathetic. I understand that. It took me about 10 years to really feel like I got my head around the work of Hegel, and I had a lot of time to read him during that period. But then I found these tweets today where then he responded and said, this dude, which is me, is a total honker. I don't know what a honker is, guys, but he said I'm a total honker. And then he said, and I just think this is funny. So yeah, like the stream, guys, like the stream. I'm gonna get a little heated for a second. So he calls me a honker, and then he says, my voice is, let's see, 45,653 times sexier than his. Oh my God. So he said his voice is 45, almost 46,000 times sexier than mine. I'll say this, guys. I don't think of myself as someone that has a particularly sexy voice, but I also don't think, I have necessarily an unsexy voice. I think I just have a voice, But also, if any of you have ever listened to James Lindsay talk, I don't think when you listen to James Lindsay talk about the worship of the Hegelian dialectic that you're getting horned up. I don't think people listen to a 4-hour James Lindsay podcast where he butchers the work of Marx and they start getting deeply aroused. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it is. Also, you know what I would never say in public? I would never say that like this man's voice, my voice is sexier than this man's voice. So that's a kind of starting point there. Liam says my 666 voice is sexier. Thank you so much. Let's see. Getting some lag from my camera mic. If you can't hear me, I could turn it off and back on, but I'll keep going and we'll see what happens there. So those were those tweets. Now, then over the weekend, I said some stuff. And I don't really know what order these are in. Maybe the order I sent them over to you, Henry. But so I tweeted, the initial thing I tweeted at him was, oh yeah, here's the tweet. I said, bullying a dead child? You are a horrible person. Who was also a complete idiot. I stand by that. Okay. And he retweeted and said, of course, there's no bullying except iron law of woke projection never misses. I don't care who you are, what you believe. I don't know. That just means nothing. So later, a bunch of people, I then responded that like, you should watch our video on Hegel. Did someone say I'm homophobic? I don't think I said anything homophobic. Oh, I think you're joking though. But I did recommend our video, and I said he doesn't understand Hegel. And I made a comment that maybe I shouldn't have made because maybe it was hubristic and maybe it was pretentious. But I said, I'm going to bet. Someone said I was an idiot, and I just said, I'm going to bet on the guy with the PhD in European philosophy. That's just me. To which James Lindsay said, should have a PhD in jerking off instead, to be quite honest. So I said that I think I have a right, not even a right, that I'm a pretty good source of knowledge on a European philosopher because I have a PhD in it. Not that that makes me better or smarter or anything. And he said, I should have got it in jerking off. Fair. It would have been more fun. I responded, only have an MA in jerking off, which he says, this guy has a master's degree in playing with himself. LOL. I don't know. I kind of just like I engaged for longer than I should have. I did. And I was surprised by, I guess what really surprised me is how many people on the internet, A, follow this guy, and B, take them seriously. Here's the thing. None of those people who care about this guy, none of them have read the philosophers he talks about. None of them understood them. I did find a tweet. I didn't screenshot this. When I said he didn't understand Hegel, his reply was a screenshot. It was like an image of a spiral that said like the vertical dialectic, the horizontal dialectic, but it said nothing. Huss said I fed the troll. I know. I'm homophobic because I wouldn't say my voice is sexier than him. You're totally right. But yeah, but it was very weird too that he just kept talking about me jerking off. But then, well, here's the other thing too. I don't know if you guys know this, and it's in the thumbnail for the stream right now. This is also someone. So what happened then is like I got called a groomer, and then some cool Wisecrack fans and heads started responding and saying stuff. And they got called groomers. And, you know, the funny thing is there's pictures of this guy hanging out with Nikki Klein, who's one of the members of that Nexium cult. I don't know if anyone watched the Nexium stuff on HBO. We did a video about it. So this is a person. He also developed a sort of like t-shirts that say, okay, groomer. But like, this is a person whose whole vibe is anyone who doesn't agree with me is a groomer. They're a woke groomer. And there's just pictures of him hanging out with people that are parts of organizations that have been legally accused of sex trafficking. It's just crazy. It blows my mind. And sometimes I get annoyed because I want the world to be rational, and it's not. So, you know, yeah, Ryan says, you might have wanted to stop at bullying the dead child. Listen, if I had to do it over again, I would have said nothing. But then so someone said, what's a groomer? It's kind of like, I don't want to get too into it because I don't want to like have this be the discussion, but it's a thing that a lot of people on the right say about people on the left, that they groom children sexually. So a lot of the debate around like children's sexuality and trans rights and sex education is the reason that liberals want sex ed in schools is so they can like groom children sexually. It's kind of fucked. Julia just got here. Thanks for being here. Hey, like the stream if you're not a groomer. So let's see. Cass B says it's so funny because when he was going hard on CRT, he was like, I'm not going to talk about LGBT stuff. Then a couple months later, all he says is groomer over and over again. Yeah. So I didn't know that he put out a new book, but he put out a new book on the Marxification of education. Now I'm not going to read it. I'm going to pull up a video, which is the one that I wanted to see. I think it's this one. I'm going to pause.
The teacher will be instructed.
Oh, on the Moms for Liberty podcast. I love Moms for Liberty. It's one of my favorite groups. Thanks for being everyone. Please like the stream if you haven't yet. Logan says groomers use the word groomer to take the meaning out of the word so they can get away with being groomers. Logan is correct. Logan is very correct. The only people that accuse people of being groomers are people that have a relationship to being groomers themselves. So there's that. Joan Job says, how long do we have to continue to treat arguments and claims from the right as intellectually honest? I mean, these ones aren't because there's fear mongering. So let's watch a little bit of this, okay? You probably didn't wake up today and think to yourself, I'm going to watch a bit of the Joyful Warriors Moms for Liberty podcast on the Marxification of education. We're just going to watch a few seconds of it. We're going to watch maybe a few minutes, and we're going to see when I lose my mind. So today's game is, when will Michael lose his mind watching the Joyful Warriors podcast on the Marxification of education. Do I lose my mind at 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10? You can even make bets in the chat if you want of when I'm going to lose my goddamn mind. So let's see what happens. I'll go a little bit before we pause.
Be instructed to focus in on some particular generative themes that actually are the things that are causing reactions in the students, and to prime the students to have discussions about systemic racism or their own complicity in racism. Have you ever been racist? Can you imagine?
Also, I love that when he's on these interviews, he talks in this way that's like, hello, I'm a serious man. Also, if you're someone who's attracted to men, do you find his voice sexy? You can be honest. It's not offensive if you do. Some people that are bad have sexy voices. He's just like, oh, hello, I'm a serious, intellectual, serious guy. And then he's on Twitter just like, you honking honker, I'm sexier than you, you honker jerk off.
Imagine what it feels like. Now you've created a massive...
Also, he's appropriating the Harris culture with this goddamn map behind him. You are no Johnny. You don't deserve that fucking map.
Emotional dynamic with caring little 6 and 7 year olds or whatever the grade level is, to where you're going to use their emotions to manipulate them. You're going to put a hook into their heart to lead them away from their head.
Taking back our children, taking back our schools, taking back our country. Yes. This is a Free Thinkers podcast, I can tell.
Hey, Joyful Warriors.
Hey,
so excited for
Tiffany
this episode
Justice.
today.
Is her real last name
Joyful
Justice? What do you guys think? Do we think Tiffany Justice? There's no way that's her real last name, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
No way. No way. Okay, thanks for being here. Thanks for liking the stream. Let's see how much I can get through before I totally lose
It's
it.
the first time ever had Mr. Lady Killer, Dr. James Lindsay, on the Moms for Liberty podcast, the Joyful Warrior podcast.
Mr. Lady Killer! They called him Mr. Lady Killer! Guys, I can't believe it. He's the lady killer. I believe he would kill ladies. I believe he's probably wanted to kill, but oh my God.
Thank you, Lady Killer James, for joining us today.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here. I still got my name tag somewhere on my bookshelf over here for the Lady Killer name tag. I can see it, the National Summit. I figured that's a piece of history, so I should keep it. First National Summit, Moms for Liberty.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I thank you so much for speaking on the main stage there and talking to our moms a little bit, giving them some insight into why America's public schools are where they are today. So for those of you that don't know James Lindsay is originally a math professor, right, James? You taught math?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
And then
And
got
how would you describe
fired.
yourself now? I mean, your
gonna be
role
good. This
right
is gonna be
now
good.
today in America is truth teller?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I try to keep making it so that my bio says professional troublemaker, but people keep editing it out and putting political commentator, which is really boring and stupid, which is not actually what I do most of the time.
Just
I-
fucking
I
sex
actually-
bot.
I started
Legendary
by studying
coxman
woke
and troublemaker, James Lindsay.
most of the time. I started by studying woke and started working my way backwards to now. I think I've gone back to its history like 3,000 years. But for the most part, I've studied Marx's influence on our society as it's kind of manifested in the past 20 or 30 years in particular. And it explains a lot of things like why our education system is so messed up.
What does Marxism have to do with public education in America? If anyone else went to public school in America, did you get a lot of Marxism? Is there a lot of Marxism
No.
in your elementary school? Did you play like games on the playground? Like dismantle the bourgeois or something, take back the means of lunchroom production. Yeah, Logan says 3,000 years. You know who was born 3,000 years ago? Oh, I was gonna say Christ, but it's not Christ. Damn it. Okay. I don't know if I've officially lost it yet. I'll let you guys decide when I've officially lost it.
Why our entertainment systems are so messed up, why the media is lying to us constantly. It kind of explains a lot. So I try to deliver that to, normal people a little bit on.
Oh, normal people. From what I've found of interacting with his followers online, tons of normal people.
You're going to have to reach for the cookies a little bit. They're on a higher shelf. But I try to help normal people understand what's going on.
So I've learned a tremendous deal.
Also, I just want to say this. He wants to help normal people understand what's going on. This guy makes like 4-hour podcast where he misreads Marx and Hegel. What normal people are just like, oh, I have time for 4 hours of that shit.
From you and listening to your podcast on new discourses. So for those of you that you've never heard of James before, please go to newdiscourses.com.
Don't go to
and
it.
You can see
Never
his
go to
podcast.
it.
You can go on Spotify, on
Go
Apple.
to anything else.
James has done, gosh, I don't even know how many
Google,
podcasts you've done.
how
at
am
this
I
point,
going
James.
to die before? Did
so
he just
many.
drink
I mean, you have
a
several
Matt
that come
Walsh
out
mug?
every week.
Yeah, the main podcast, which is the New Discourses podcast, is at like 101 or 102 episodes now. So we just crossed the century mark. Let's see. There's a
Get into
short
this stuff.
form, sort of, usually aspirationally short form version called New Discourses.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I want to get into the ideas.
Like, how about I just make this podcast? It's audio only.
Ads that were there and spent time with them and answered questions and listened to the other speakers and drew connections and helped them to draw connections between all of the things that they were hearing about and learning. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you formally on the podcast for taking so much time. And
they say, because they have to knock you off of 3 different kinds of authority where people might take you seriously, or you can stand and be sure in what you're saying without doubting yourself. And those are intellectual authority, moral authority, and psychological authority. So they constantly try to attack you. They try to make you out to be bad people. We know that the moms got labeled domestic terrorists. We know that,
Right.
We were talking before we started about all the political cartoons made about the moms of Moms for Liberty, just trying to characterize them as horrible people.
The Moms for
They try
Liberty,
to tell
like,
you don't understand the issue. You don't understand real education.
Okay, talk about your stupid book
in language that cuts through the BS and actually
part of before. And I watched as people from all across the country, all of these third-party consultants, right? These grifters, as I like to call them, swooped in and just had droves of information and programs. This is the solution. This is the solution. Oh, your kids aren't doing well in school. Well, they don't feel safe and valued. You're not teaching them in a culturally relevant fashion. If you just do this, then kids will learn. And we've seen across the country
why
that all of these
education
things
is
have been put into
Marxified.
schools, and kids aren't learning any better. Achievement is not increasing. And so I want to dive in. We're a parental rights organization. So primarily, parents have that fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children.
Yeah, the reason America has one of the most underperforming education systems in the world is Marx. And the reason that teachers get paid like under living wages is because of Marx. And the reason that American history education emphasizes a really one-sided Eurocentric view of history is because of Marx. It's all because of Marx.
Upbringing of their children. Anybody who tells you that they're an expert who knows better for your child is an idiot, and you need to tell them that.
Anyone who tells you that they know anything better for your child is an idiot, and you can tell them that. If I have a child and I go to like a doctor, I hope I'm not just like, you fucking idiot.
You need to tell them to back off. And I know you help parents to build up that armor to be able to do that. But we also work in
I
education.
feel so bad for teachers who have to deal with
I'm
these
a
fucking
conservative.
people.
I said the other day, I'm a conservative, but I also consider myself to be a revolutionary. I think that we need to be a revolutionary. We need to be pushing forward. And conservatives for a long time really seeded the ground in public education. They focused primarily on school choice and have not focused on ed reform. So sorry about that. My dog's adding to the podcast.
My dog Adolf. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
So when American parents are looking at our schools and they're saying, our kids aren't learning how to read in school. They can't do math in school.
Because Marx hated reading. In Volume 2 of Capital, Marx says, the key programmatic of the revolution must be illiterate children who love Nintendo.
Cool. We have NAEP scores.
Sampaio just got here. Well, what's happening is that I'm going to lose my mind on stream because we're watching an interview from the Moms for Liberty podcast with intellectual thought warrior and lady killer James Lindsay, who wrote a book called The Marxification of Education.
That just came out, right? Worse than 2019.
Glad
But let's
you're here,
remember
Natasha.
In 2019, the kids weren't doing well in school, right? How do we get to this moment for someone who's never met you before? Let's
Blame
talk
Marx,
a little
James.
bit about
Do
this
it.
man named
Do
Paulo
it.
Freire. And you have said before, our
Paulo Freire is good. I'm so excited to hear him talk about how he's bad because he's just objectively good.
children go to Paulo Freire schools. But Paulo Freire is dead, right?
Yeah.
He hasn't been alive for quite some time. So how are our kids going?
And it's funny that he's dead.
going to Paulo Freire schools.
Well, let me start with these consultants.
And I'm going to tell you this too. Almost none of your teachers were like disciples of Paulo Freire. They just weren't.
Consultants, because I want to just point out that, it's kind of like, you get the Oreo and then you get the double stuffed Oreo. They're like double stuffed frauds. It's like 2 layers of fraud in between the sandwich cookies, because what you've got going on is that they don't diagnose the problems correctly, and then the solutions that they offer are the exact wrong thing to do. So, with things like school shootings, we know that we have very good reasons, at least to believe. I think we know that the part of the cause of this is restorative justice programming. We know that it's the inclusive classroom where you're bringing
He just said the cause of school shootings is just restorative justice and inclusive classrooms. That is the thing that he just said, and we all heard that, right?
So
cool.
Yeah,
that's great,
man. If you put the white ones in with the others, they just essentially get angry and shooty. We have to abolish those programs, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, what's up, Allie? Glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, Allie. I'm glad you're here. Everyone's crazy. Thanks for liking. Listen, like the stream if you don't think inclusivity causes school shootings.
Troubled kids back in and trying to keep them integrated in the main classroom. And so in the case of the shooting in Parkland, we know that there were hundreds of kids who said, we saw something, we said something, they did nothing. And that was because of restorative justice and inclusive classroom policies. So what do? They come back and they say, oh, what we'll do is we'll indoctrinate your kids with equity and inclusion-based social emotional engineering, and then that's going to solve the problem. And not only did it not solve the problem in any regard whatsoever,
because school shooters use justice to kill kids. They use equity. They load bullets of restorative justice to do it.
But it also just starts taking away from class time.
Like, it just makes me so upset, guys, that people like this are important. I'll say this, people. Oh, thank you, KF. Let's be honest, just as many people watch this guy, probably more, than consume our content, right? Thousands, if not millions of people read this guy's books and they take it seriously. And people who want good stuff for their children take this guy seriously. And then they fucking harass teachers who are underpaid saints whose lives are committed just to educating young people, and then he's got to criticize them
by redirecting it into things that even if it were done honestly, the school probably doesn't have any station to be doing. But it's not being done honestly.
Tell us about Paulo Freire.
Inclusion, that sustainability, this.
This doesn't mean anything. He's saying that equity, inclusion, and sustainability lead to school shootings.
Agenda, whatever that. And so they never diagnose the problems correctly. But if we were to be very kind to them and say that they do, they'd never prescribe the right medicine either. And that's because they fundamentally don't know what's going on. And Paulo is.
Can you give that analogy? Yeah.
No, talk about Paulo Freire. Let's hear you talk about it.
Can you give that analogy again that you gave at the summit for those that didn't hear it, about if you had a wound? I thought that analogy that you gave about that was wonderful.
Tell us about your wound.
Yeah, so they think in what's called systems, right? So they're always trying to figure out how the system is the thing that's the problem. And so if you have a problem, somehow the system is the failure. And kind of a hilarious example of this that actually happened this summer was, there's Mpox, and you're not allowed to ask what the M in monkeypox stands for anymore because it's racist to ask what the M.
That's not real. That's not a thing that happened. You're just making a thing up. I didn't hear one person say that the M
stands for an Mpox. But so you're never going to say M monkeypox again. You can't ask. But anyway, there was this huge thing about
anyone else want to drink for lunch?
For a vaccination and all this. And then it turns out that one of the Open Society Foundation New York office, top guys gets it.
Still hasn't talked about Paulo Freire.
This story telling about how he got it. And it's one of the most hilarious things I've ever read.
I'm sure it is hilarious, James.
About his suffering and how
I read it. Oh my goodness.
How he obtained the virus.
Where are they laughing at the suffering of someone who got a disease?
I've honestly kind of lost the intent of the sentence because it's all dog whistles.
Yeah.
Not allowed to name. But at any rate, what did he do? Why did he write this humiliating article? It was because he said, because the system in New York City failed him by failing to vaccinate him.
So is the point here that systems don't exist? Organized networks of power and organization don't like. There's no such thing as a system. I don't know how he understands the system. Are there structures? Is it all just a bunch of atoms floating in space, bouncing off each other in an unorganized way? I don't know.
Him properly before he went to whatever kind of a party where monkeypox might spread, and then contracted it. And it was funny, but they're always trying to blame the system. So the analogy I gave was that if you went to the doctor and let's say you were out, doing normal human stuff and working outside in the garden or in the yard or on a fence or something, and you cut yourself, and it was maybe some rusty barbed wire. It got a little.
Did marks do it?
And a couple days go by, you're like, this isn't getting better. It's really red. It's really swollen. It's got some, infection starting up. I have to go to the doctor. And so you go to the doctor, and what a real doctor will do is look at the situation, and then it'll say, well, we're going to treat this. We're going to clean it up. We're going to put some antibiotics. We're going to put you on this, and we're going to kill the source of the infection so that it can heal properly. And what a person who thinks in terms of systems would do would say, if you had a doctor who's thinking systemically, is, oh, wow, you're having a reaction. This looks like all this white stuff that's kind of coming up around the edges. That's an immune system reaction. This red, this swelling, this is a systemic reaction that's rooted in your immune system. So the way that we're going to treat this is by putting you on immune suppressants to make sure that...
Doesn't make sense. The analogy would be this. Let's do it better, guys. Let's do a better job than ladies' man James Lindsay, whose penis has never left his pants, and he pees his pants all the time. I'm saying he's never taken his pants off. Every time he pees his pants. But the analogy would be if I go to the doctor and I have some sort of poisoning or wound or something, a systemic way to think about it would be, we are going to heal the wound, but we are going to consider the conditions that led to that. So maybe I was working on a fence that was a rusty fence or something like that around my building, and I hadn't had a recent tetanus shot, and I get an infection because of the rusty fence. The systemic analysis would be, why does a fence like that exist in the first place? Maybe I need to update my fence. Maybe we shouldn't be using those materials anymore to make them. The systemic analysis isn't, let's kill your immune system. That makes no sense. But it's like his brain can't think of, oh, I'm sorry that I kink shamed him for peeing his pants.
That this reaction goes away because you're thinking about changing the system overall
James,
that's causing
really
the
funny.
symptom rather than actually addressing the thing that is the problem and treating it in the right way.
That is like saying, okay, for example, like poverty exists. Well, how do we treat, elements of poverty in an immediate level? Well, if someone is unhoused, we should try to get them into housing. That's a solution to an effect. The system itself is a system of exploitation that means it's really hard for people to get housing, and then we analyze it from those levels. We can actually think, all of you, everyone in this chat right now is easily smart enough to be able to think of those things at once. But Oreo Man here just can't. I miss Johnny Harris so much.
They will misdiagnose the source of the problem and misprescribe the solution to the problem.
How does this apply to Paulo Freire, Marx, or anything?
Almost like willfully and intentionally resistant to understanding what's really going on in the world.
So with learning and education, we have a situation, I think, where
I love her
teachers
glasses,
have not
though. Those are cool
been trained
glasses.
properly in order to be able to teach children to read in school.
I wonder if she has studied education at any level. She might have. She literally might have. But I love when people just critique teachers.
Right.
And we're not addressing that failure. And there's a lot of harm that's going to have to be owned when people address that failure, right? That we have. Emily Hanford came out with a podcast. She's a journalist. It's called Sold a Story. If you haven't heard it, I suggest to our listeners, go and listen to it. And it talks about how in America we have truly failed our children to teach them how to read. And everyone bought into a lie about reading and balanced literacy and this guessing game that we have had children doing rather than learning how to read. And so all of this stuff, the CRT, the SEL, the DEI,
the CRT did it.
Like
Why can't kids read? The CRT did it.
I've often thought of education as like a cake that's crumbling. And instead of really taking all the frosting off.
And guys, I'm going to say this too. If anyone's tuning in right now and they're like, you know what? I don't like this. I don't like that there's an element. And yes, we're going to the Harris Hole next week for sure. If someone's like, this is political, and what I come to Wisecrack for is not I don't come here for punditry. This really isn't political. What this is about is people distorting ideas from interesting philosophers, sociologists, thinkers, and theories of education and using them in really messed up, damaging political ways that often attack children. I'm about to blow a gasket, so we'll just watch a few more, and then I'm going to go I don't know, drink a beer and go streaking or
and
something.
looking at the cake inside. They just keep putting more frosting and stuff on top of it, right? And not wanting to address the real issues.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we need some good what are yous this week, guys. So get
there are
ready.
those that will argue about education that originally, when it was first created, that it missed the mark to begin with, that it was meant to create workers instead of truly educating children. But then something happened. There was a shift in
Wait, who's on his mug? Is that Matt Walsh guy? Or is it himself? I don't know. It's
education.
someone who
And you
sucks.
talk about Freire, this Brazilian gentleman who wrote a book called
Please,
The
talk about
Pedagogy of the
Freire.
Oppressed. That is, you said it's the top 3 cited work in American teachers' colleges, in colleges of education.
I guarantee you that's not true. I guarantee you that if you looked at every education program in an American college, that the third most cited book would not be Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. If it was, that would still be fine, because it's a really interesting and important book that I think that everyone should read. That's literally about how education is like the most important thing we can do to help society become a more just and equitable place. But there's no, if you studied education, let us know. If you're a teacher, I know some teachers watch this.
In America?
In the humanities and social sciences overall, it's number 3.
Okay.
That's not true. In the humanities and social sciences overall, in all higher education, Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed is not the third most cited book. You might be saying now, Michael, you're just saying stuff. Where are your facts? Where are your sources? I'm willing to bet.
And so this is an
Wow.
extraordinarily influential work. It holds pride of place in every college of education.
Also, it is a good
every
book,
school
though. It like really
of
is a good book.
education in North America, at least, and probably beyond. So yeah, Paulo Freire was allegedly teaching peasants how to read, and he has all these like kind of very not real sounding miracle stories where he allegedly taught peasants to read in a week.
Wow, how could a peasant read? How could a poor peasant read? This can't be real. A peasant? And a Brazilian peasant nonetheless reading? Who has ever heard of such a thing?
Or where, in 40 days, he took them from not being able to read at all to being, completely literate. But what he thought.
So we think teachers are bad at teaching people how to read. And then Paulo Freire is like, oh, as someone who's dedicated my life to education, I have figured out ways to teach people how to read. And then we're like, but that's also bad. Yes, this is my descent into madness, friends.
Is the reason, and this is going to sound familiar to parents because of the word engagement. What he thought was, well, they're trying to teach these peasants to read with kind of, actual reading materials, which isn't very engaging.
So he just said actual reading materials, which he just set a standard. There's a thing called actual reading materials. What's he about to say aren't actual reading materials? This is going to be good. Dead Card, thank you so much.
It's boring to learn kind of rote sentences like, it rhymes in Portuguese or whatever, but it's Ava saw a grape is a very common like introductory. It would be like our C. Dick and
What's
Jane,
up to Manoir?
In America. Ava saw a grape because I don't know how to say saw anymore, but grape is uva. So Ava, uva, you get the joke. So they're these cute kind of little things. And he says, well, that's disconnected and meaningless. We're going to teach these people to read by teaching them to read the words that matter to them. So what he's literally saying right here is maybe if we want people to read, this is what Freire would say, let's give them text that apply to them and engage in the cultures in which they live. But Lindsay says this is bad. What we're going to do is talk to them. We're going to interview them. We're going to dialogue with them at first without trying to teach them to read, to find out what kind of words really mean something to them in their lives. And so he's looking for things that have emotional reactions attached to them, political relevance in particular. Because
thank you for sharing the Brazilian
thing
or the Portuguese thing.
Political relevance. We call that, of course, cultural relevance now, which is
literally something that Aristotle talks about in the Nicomachean Ethics. And Aristotle's smarter than James Lindsay. I'll say it. Maybe I can't prove it. Aristotle's smarter than James Lindsay. Quote me.
The same thing. But the idea is that you would look for words like slum, suffering, dying, death, starvation, hunger, stealing, even not all negative words. You might have rich. Like other people are rich and you're not.
Abundance, right?
Abundance, yeah, that's right. Frustration.
So here he's like making fun of the fact that people that are peasants in Brazil would care about, because when you care about oppression and not having enough food when you don't have enough food. You care about those things.
It's kind of astonishing
And someone brought this up in the chat. These are Bible words.
the words that he would pick. He had a bunch of
Hey, keep liking the stream because we might get to 666, but it's going up a little bit. I don't know why. I would love to end on a Satan voice. I would love to end. Today needs the Dark Lord. So please like the stream. It would be great if we could get there before we end.
rules for which words he would pick that have a lot to do with Portuguese and not a lot to do with anything in concept. But the concept that did matter was that it has to be emotionally and politically relevant to the so-called actualities of their lives. And then he would use those words.
He's making fun of the idea that reading materials that are socially and politically relevant to someone's life would help engage them in such a way that they would read and that they would care. Literally, what are the things that we talk about? We go back in philosophy and we read Platonic dialogues. They're engaging people in questions about their lives to bring them into it, because you know what we got to do? We got to examine our own lives and the conditions of the world in which we exist to be engaged in them.
Use those
Please,
words
let's
to
get
give
to
a
666.
Marxist political lesson. What are the real causes behind these words? Why are
So it's Marxist to look for causes behind things that happen in the world. That's Marxist.
some people rich and some people poor? Why are some people able
Yes, if you're poor, you want to know why the world exists in such a way that some people are rich and poor. That's not
to
bad.
afford food and other people not? Why do some people live in a slum and other people get to live in a mansion?
He's asking all these questions as if they don't matter. Guys, that's insane.
These are the kinds of lessons that he wanted to have. And then he would try to peel back the so-called structural or systemic.
I wonder why people would be interested in reading and learning about the sets of conditions that directly affect their lives. That's like saying, like, it's my house is getting really, really, really hot. It's really hot in here. I would love to know about why it's hot in here. That was a bad analogy. I started going someplace and I didn't have anywhere to go. I'm just going to be honest with you. We're going to watch a couple more minutes. We'll stop it. I don't think we're going to get 666, but we needed it.
Causes. And allegedly, this made the people so interested in wanting to read, or
Allegedly.
we could extend to do math or whatever else, that they would then suddenly, very spontaneously pick up with those words and use it to learn to read other words and very rapidly construct.
He's describing how people learn to
sentences
read.
and learn how to read that way, which is just kind of made up. It's very unlikely to be a successful approach.
Why?
This
Is he gonna cite pedagogical studies that show why that couldn't
is
work?
what's been at the bottom of what's going on in the schools, whether social emotional learning or whatever else. The DEI, and you're right, it is a way to paper over their failures. They want to do a political lesson, and what they do is they create an excuse. They say, well, the kids aren't reading so well. It's probably because they're emotionally disturbed or they have trauma or something. So now what we're going to do is treat the trauma or deal with the emotional or the social.
There are so many studies, guys, that talk about the way in which things like malnutrition and poverty and trauma and abuse affect our ability to learn. These are well-known things. And he's literally saying that doesn't matter. That is crazy, guys. We all know this to be true. And for any of us, and I think we'll stop soon because I don't want to bum anyone out too much, but like, sadly, because of the way the world is, out of me and Henry and the 600 or so of you right now, some of us had some shitty stuff happen to us as kids. And I'm sorry that happened to you. I really am. And some of it happened to me and it sucked. And I'm sorry for all of us. But I'll tell you this, it's pretty fucking hard to do a good job in school and pay attention and learn when you're not sure if you're going to eat dinner that night, when you're not sure if you're going to be safe in your own home, guys, when you're not sure if you and mom are going to have a place to sleep that night. You're not going to be able to focus. And we look at like learning, and I'll tell you why later. I've been researching this stuff. I've actually been researching early education recently for some stuff I'm working on. But like, look at like, high IQs, high achievement. What does it all correlate with? It correlates people that are from like middle class, upper middle class families that have a consistent living situation, access to healthcare, and access to food. Guys, it's pretty common sense.
We know too, like, why reading deficiencies occur. Like there have been studies done on whole word learning versus phonics and all that as well. Like all these weird abstract like wokeism CRTs doing all this. It's like, no, the things you're complaining about have like been studied, and we know like it's more a matter of like people selling textbooks needing to get certain things in classes more so than like what's effective.
Yeah. I mean, like, and again, maybe we'll watch like 2 more seconds. We'll kind of start wrapping this up. But like, this goes back to what we talked about before, guys. Here's what we're really getting at here. We're not getting into politics. We're getting into empathy. we're getting into the baseline starting point of when he talks about Paulo Freire teaching peasants in Brazil and operating from a condition of meeting them where they're at. We're not talking about Marxism. We're not talking about politics. We're literally talking about operating from a position of human empathy where we let ourselves participate in the experience of another such that we can meet them where they're at and help them. And that's what education is about. That's how education works. This is why even all the way back when we look at like dialogues in, you know, early Greek philosophy, it's about meeting the individual where they're at. And, you know, there's even like the famous example of like, you know, Socrates teaching the kid geometry in the sand. Let me just like watch 5 more seconds to see if I fully lose it, and then we're going to wrap up.
Social circumstances first. And then when we fix that, it's called whole child education. When we fix the whole
rolls
child,
his eyes
then we can
at
get
everything
into
good.
actually teaching them to read. But the problem is if when they've actually implemented Freire's method to do things like this, to address the political situation, the economic situation, the social situation that they're in, and use these kind of culturally relevant or very sensitive radicalizing topics, nobody wants to learn to read. They do the political radicalization and everybody just wants to be an activist. They don't want to learn to read. They don't want to learn to do math. They want
He's just saying
to
stuff.
change society right
There's
now.
no evidence.
So what
of
you end
this.
up with is exactly what we see. A bunch of ignorant activists coming out of schools.
So you open up this new book that just came out on December 6th, The Marxification of Education. I recommend anyone that's listening to this podcast, go out and get this book, read this book.
Don't
there
get
it is,
it.
right there. A very important book that has
Pee
been written
on the
where James
ground and try to
documents
read your
what
piss
has
before you
happened
read that book,
in
guys.
the American public
Oh,
education
Julian.
system and why it has happened. And
I'm
at
sure
the
Marxism
beginning,
caused
you
the last
open up
20
and
years
you
of
talk
educational
about
failure.
Tamara
Yes,
Hack,
Julian.
I do.
the senator from Rhode
Okay, we should probably call it there, guys. Let's just do a last quick run of what arias, okay? What aria is where we recommend things we're watching, we're listening to, we're reading that we're liking. Let's do a really positive what aria on our way out. You guys type yours. Henry and I'll share mine. I'll give you one. Andy Schauf has a new record out called Norm. If you like thinky storytelling, folky music, it's really good. Listen to the album Norm by Andy Schauf. I like it very much. Do you have anything, Henry?
Yeah, the YouTuber Noah Caldwell Gervais did a road trip across the Lincoln Highway, which was the first like inner like coast to coast road in America. And it's a 7-hour video, and he talks a lot of history and just cultural stuff as he makes the trip. It's very good and very insightful, and it's very uplifting ultimately because he's talking about, you know, social connections and the will to like build infrastructure and just the history of the country in that respect.
Well, let's watch. Everyone watch that, and maybe we'll even watch a clip of it next week. I'll say this too, guys. Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed is a really good book. I'm going to say that. I think you should consider reading it and then see if you think this guy is right. I hope he doesn't see this. I guess it was a little like whatever to put him in the thumbnail and stuff. But you know, if he did, he would just be mad at us. But like again, guys, all we're saying here is we got to think about the ideas and where they come from and operate the position of empathy. I'm going back there. We're getting a lot of good stuff in the chat. And you know, that's what. Oh, Kaz's been listening to the Jaded Forum podcast. You guys might remember that Udoye was on the stream a few weeks ago. Jaded Forum's great. Go to Jaded Forum on YouTube. They have these cool conversations about culture and politics and art, and they're really, really good. Nelson, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it, Nelson. We like you guys a lot. Thank you so much. For the Philosophize this episode on Simone Weil.
Good
Hell
series, yeah.
And I got to write back our man from Philosophize this because he wrote after the last stream, but after the last stream went on vacation. Okay, we're going to cut it here. Love you guys so much. We'll be back on Thursday next week, our regular day. We'll be back on Thursday. See you then. Really can't wait. And thanks again to producer Henry for making it happen. Thanks to you all. We'll be back next week. This has been Wisecrack Live. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all. See you next week.